Very exciting.
Talk English. Okay. First step of the live stream is to actually check if the live stream works.
How can we see that?
Yeah,
It's uploading.
I can see that. YouTube says we have an excellent connection. See us on in. With LinkedIn, I'm always a little bit confused where it is, but probably it's there. Last time it worked. So we are live. Hello, Simon.
Nice. Hello, Rick.
So just like my first episode, I'm using the second one also to catch up with a friend. It's a nice way to combine work and pleasure.
Very effective. Right?
Yeah. And normally when we meet up, we also talk business. So, there's not really a difference besides the fact that we're recording it and live streaming it. The only weird thing is
we're
that
together and probably with a beer in our hands. So that's...
Yeah. And two Dutchies talking English is always a little bit cringe, but we're going to do it anyway. Simon, you told me to not refer to you anymore as the freelancers Simon, but then I looked at your LinkedIn and it still said freelance growth and technical marketing consultant. So you need to update your LinkedIn.
Yeah, I know.
But tell me, you are now officially no longer freelancing.
No, already. So it's my first month not being a freelancer anymore.
Congratulations, I guess.
So I really enjoy it. No, indeed, I haven't updated my LinkedIn yet because we thought it would be smarter to update it in a moment where people are actually back from their holidays to gain as much exposure as possible.
This is the growth mindset.
This is growth marketing. So that's why I waited a bit. And of course to survive the first month. But I did, so that's good.
Congrats, because I'm going to introduce you. So how will I introduce you? So we met when you was working at the Next Web, and back then you were, what was your
already
function
before,
there?
Slightly unofficial.
Oh yeah, the Van der Valk. Yeah, that's true. Van der Valk, that is true. So you have been doing digital analytics and marketing. Then I think you went into CRO, right? That was a little bit, but you also did a lot of SEO, I think, right? You basically did a little bit of everything.
Yeah, at Van der Valk was a bit of it was my first online marketing position. So it was a bit of a jack of all trades, but quickly chose to focus on basically anything except paid. But I could definitely look around in paid search mainly as well, see what is going on there. But really at Van der Valk was already focusing a bit more on analytics, SEO, and also a bit of CRO. This is also where I learned the trade from people like Ton Wesseling and Bart. Bart Schutz. Spent a couple of years there, 3 years. Yeah, and I think back then you were still at MaxLead and you worked for the other side of Van der Valk. We're not going to dive into that whole story of how the different Van der Valk stories are. And I work for the other part, but they still talk to each other. So we met up with a small event, I think. And then, after 3.5 years, I joined the Next Web. And we needed, back then it was a big publisher, lots of traffic. So our Google Analytics accounts couldn't handle the amount of page views that we had, plus the amount of events that we wanted to track, etc. So we had to look for a Google Analytics 360 partner.
That was me.
And then I said to Martijn, whose birthday it is today, I was like,
happy birthday, Martijn. He's still asleep.
He's probably still asleep. I said to him, like, maybe I know the guy who works at MaxLead, and maybe he can sell it to us for the right reasons that we want to have it. And that's definitely where the story starts.
Yeah, that is true. And we always stayed in touch. We went on an American road trip to an American wedding, etc., etc.
Survived Las Vegas.
Survived Las Vegas together, barely. But you went freelance, and this was the thing I was thinking about today. Like, what am I going to talk to Simon about? Because there's lots of avenues to explore with you. Some of them will not be explored on live on the stream. But I see a lot of people going freelance right now. Just today, I saw, I think, 2 more people, not just announcing, hey, I'm quitting at this agency or at this large company, and I'm going freelance. Freelance data specialist, freelance paid search, freelance, whatever specialist in digital marketing. So that trend is obvious. I don't think anybody is not seeing that.
No.
You reversed it, right? So you were freelance for 2 years, 3 years?
3.5 years.
Yeah. And now you joined Kuramando.
Yeah, Kuramando, AIDRA, Conversionista.
Yeah. So basically, they are growing, buying brands, merging them, building a new thing, right? Maybe you can expand on that a little bit later. But first, I want to talk about why did you decide to unfreelance yourself? What was the...
Well, I think the question before is like, why did you become a freelancer? And I think I'd never had the intention to become a freelancer. It sort of happened. I left Vermoof without any proper plans on what to do next. So I was like, okay, I'm now off. And then within 2 weeks, I was at the Chamber of Commerce, registering myself as a freelancer. Well,
it just happened.
So it sort of just happened. So people tricked me into it. But yeah, that went fine for the past 3.5 years. So yeah, first of all, it was never really my intention. There was never really a proper plan to go freelancing. And then I realized like sometimes I was definitely missing a bit of the team vibes. Sure, I also came from companies like the Next Web and Vermoof, which partly because of they are a startup, skill had a strong team vibe going on. So I had to get adjusted to that. But I think that was a bit harder for me in the end. And I also was missing a bit more like. I'm not sure if I really want to be that specialist all the time or get hired as a specialist, but sometimes more be part of it in a more generic role and more generalist instead of specialist. And that's harder, I think, also sometimes to sell as a freelancer. So let's say there's a big migration going on and you always get hired as the analytics specialist, the SEO specialist. But sometimes I enjoy also being a slightly high over view, having a high overview on those types of projects or products. Yeah, and then I got in touch with AIDRA, and AIDRA is a agency collective from Sweden, from the Nordics. They bought a bunch of agencies already there in the Nordics, and since a couple of years they expanded to the Netherlands as well. They buy all sorts of agencies, not only analytics or CRO, like Conversionista is more CRO. Kuramando is more digital analytics, online marketing. Digital marketing, online marketing agency, but they also have like a lot of design agencies and development, even one that only does like physical design. So like they design cars and bikes and all sorts of physical products. But then there's has some agencies who are more on the strategic side of things. So they're more on the same level. They target the same type of level or bullshit or whatever you want to call it. That's like the McKinseys of these worlds. And so they were expanding to the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, they bought Fabriek, which is a beautiful design agency. They bought Q42, which is a very nerdy development agency. And they couldn't find the right fit for online marketing agencies that they want to acquire in the Netherlands. So they decided to bring Kuramando as a label and Conversionista as a label to the Netherlands. And that's where my manager was like, came to my profile and said, well, that looks interesting for the beginning of both agencies. So would you like to join us? And yeah, after some conversations, he convinced me to join. So yeah, depending on the client or the project, I work for Kuramando or for Conversionista or even just for AIDRA. So that's a bit confusing right now. I know. That's also why we're working right now as we speak on the whole branding, especially within the Netherlands, but also worldwide, because it's of course super confusing. And what I enjoy to finish the pitch is the whole collaboration or position that we have. So we have the marketing consultants on different levels, marketing advisors, but also we have directly, okay, for an A/B test, we need a designer and a developer. We can just find them and help us build UXers for more, in-depth stuff. But also, hey, okay, we have now done a bunch of experiments. Now we want to talk to the board or, any C-level. Then we can ask the strategic consultants to help us, create a good deck and good storyline to tell the story to the right stakeholders. So, to a product owner, you need to tell a different story than to the CMO or to a designer. So I think because we have, sure, it's all different companies within the whole collective, but we still, the connections are very close and can really help each other out in delivering value to our clients. And that's something I really enjoy, because I think one of the issues, especially in CRO, is that CRO agencies, together with the clients, they collect a lot of data because they do so much experimentation. So they learn a lot, but actually translating and moving the needle of a company is super hard. Sometimes you realize after those experiments or, looking at data, and the actual value is like, okay, you actually need to change your product. You actually need to change your services. And if you are the CRO specialist, it can be a tough story to tell. But if you say, okay, but here's our strategic advisor, and he can just flip the story a bit from CRO to more generic business, then hopefully it makes a little bit more sense, and they have a bigger impact in the end, positive impact.
Yeah.
It
makes a lot of sense. Yeah. No. Well, I think.
But that was the frustration I had a bit, and that's where they came like, this is our proposition, and it was like, okay, that pitch convinced me to join, and now we need to build it in the Netherlands, of course.
Yeah. But I think it makes a lot of sense, because obviously they're not the first to pursue this strategy of the buy and build approach, right? And try to expand their offering, because everybody who works with clients in the services industry understands that it is way easier to sell additional services to an existing client than to sell the same service to new clients, especially when it is also interwoven, right? So like you just said, if you do conversion rate optimization and your conclusion is that there's a product market mismatch, right? That's not necessarily a conversion rate issue, right? It's a business issue. And I think probably as digital marketing, or whatever you want to call the space, matured, more and more people ran into that problem, right? Because at the beginning it was really like, hey, your website is so bad, that's what we need to fix, right? Or your advertising is really like, I don't know what you're doing, but you're simply not advertising on the right terms or whatever, right? But now the basics are sort of covered in most cases, right? For most, like, let's not even call them mature digital companies, but like at a decent level.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more interesting problems often require an interdisciplinary approach. And for that, it obviously makes sense to be able to offer that. And that's what you aim to do, or what companies like the one you just joined aiming to do. I think the main challenge, though, and that's something that I'm not 100% convinced of, is can you, like, where's the trade-off, right? So is it possible to offer high quality and offer all of it? Or is it, what I think happens a lot when these companies are bought and aggregated in this format, is that the senior talent walks away after 1 or 2 years, because the company, like, maybe you were at a a 10, 20 person company, and now you're part of a 500 person company, and then obviously things change because that's how that goes, right? And then those people leave and they become freelancers, right? Or
Yep.
they, that's one part where I feel like we might be a little bit too early to judge how it ends. Like one obvious competitor to you guys is Dept, right? Who've been doing this for quite some time in the Netherlands already.
Yep.
Do you have like an opinion on that or any thoughts on that topic? Or no?
Yeah, I think I agree that talent will leave at some point. I think it's also inevitable, and I don't think you should. You should. It's just gonna happen. And I saw it at Vermoof. Like the company is just totally different when it's 70 people or 500 people. And if it's 500 people, you need different type of people. You need more people who like the processes to set it up, but also be part of that. And while when the company is still 10 or 70, you just need people who like to run fast and, put out fires. And then it's not about processes. It's just about being super pragmatic, quickly identify, quickly prioritizing your head without any, formal structures. Okay, what is now the highest priority because of X, Y, and Z, and just fix it immediately. But yeah, the people you need at the beginning of an organization, of building an organization, are not the ones that you need when the company is maturing. And I think, sure, there will be people who are willing to make that transition as well and want to make that transition. Others don't want it or can't, so they will leave. And that's I think it's fine. Sure, it's sad sometimes, but I think that's just part of the nature of an organization. Sure, that doesn't mean you should not invest in your people. You obviously should, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a little bit what got you here won't get you there thing. I think one thing, one argument you could give is that as you aggregate these companies, it is also likely that the types of clients that you want to work with and continue to work with, and the new types of clients you want to attract are also larger because, large companies work with large companies.
Well, we have a lot of discussions about it. So I think one big difference to make compared to Dept, by the way, is that not everything will become AIDRA. So Fabriek will stay Fabriek. Q42 will stay for Q42. But it's more like, so the brands will continue to stay. It's not that we're going to merge everything on the one label, like Dept is doing. So I think that's one small significant difference. But no, I think actually what I noticed right now in my first month is that sometimes you need those small clients because they are actually really fun to work with. They may be not the most profitable clients, but they are the most fun where, for example, a designer can really play around with design and crazy stuff. Fabriek, for example, works for Lowlands, a big festival in the Netherlands. And so every year they get to design a crazy new design. And if you go there right now, in terms of usability and accessibility, it's really shit. But it's part of the festival, and it's people actually look forward to visit the website, the new website. So it's also now part of the Lowlands branding to have a crazy new website every year. And that's not possible if you only work for big corporates. So like, I don't know, for like a bank or something. So also to keep your team as an agency engaged, you need both types of clients. If they only work for the big corporates like banks, those designers will leave.
100%, yeah.
But if they, once in a while they work for, I don't know, ING or something, and then they do work for Lowlands, and then maybe something, just a fun project in between for, I don't know, maybe more like a museum or something. So yeah, I think it's important to have a diverse types of clients, because that actually really challenges you in different ways. Same with analytics as well. Like, when we worked together at the Next Web, we were a small client, but we could do all sorts of tracking and crazy stuff. Didn't make any business sense.
It was fun,
but
though.
It did make sense. It was fun, and it made sense more on a, let's say, a technical product level. But if we actually had to sell it internally, it was impossible to sell.
Yeah.
But it didn't really matter. So you and I learned at the Next Web a lot of technical and product stuff, while maybe at another client, or I later at clients or employees learned more, okay, how you actually sell analytics, for example.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that we also have that right now, right? So some clients, we know that, like, from a business point of view, it doesn't even make sense to hire us for more, right? But we do see opportunities, and sometimes we decide, like, hey, this is something we would really like to do because we want to experiment with it. Let us do it for cheap or free, right? And I definitely try to minimize that, right, as a business owner. But there is so much value in tinkering with stuff, and especially with new stuff, right? And we try to stay ahead of the curve, and the only way to do that is to tinker with all the new stuff that's coming out, so you know how to apply it for other companies. And your own website is always a nice sandbox, but it's better to do it on an actual use case, and some things you simply cannot apply on your own website. So yeah, 100% agreed on that part. I think I've thought about, before I started Data to Value, I actually thought about joining either Dept, or there were multiple companies back then like doing a similar strategy, because what I liked about it is, and I'm not sure if that's true, but that was what I thought would be true, is like the ability to influence multiple factors, right? So currently at Data to Value, we are, let's call it pure play analytics, right? If you want to niche it down even further, we only do like marketing analytics. And we can do a lot, but we are still limited, right? Our biggest limitation is the development capacity at the client, right? If we need to get interesting stuff done, usually somewhere something needs to be implemented. And if the client doesn't have that capacity, then you're blocked, right? And then if you do CRO, like you said, you could argue it's development capacity plus like front end design capacity, right? If you split those functions up, in theory, having all those capacities in under one brand allows you to go faster, but it does mean your client needs to purchase all of them, right? Which means the price tag goes up. With your experience of 1 month, do you think, is it like common for clients to go all in on all services, or is it like is it a more fragmented approach?
Currently, it's still a fragmented approach. So that partly has to do actually still with our branding and positioning towards clients. So yeah, a lot of Fabric or Q42 clients don't know that they are actually part of AIDRA, and that AIDRA offers more. So that's already one issue.
It's an opportunity, not an issue.
Yeah. So where the opportunity lies is like, okay, I think where we can raise the bar is that for ourselves and for clients, it's like when a new project goes live, a new website goes live or something, that an SEO or analytics person just quickly jumps in a couple weeks before the launch and checks the testing version of the website, and checks if in terms of technical SEO and basic implementation of analytics, the fundamentals are there. There's no big rookie mistakes are being made. And you could say, is that should the client pay for it? Yes or no? I don't think so. I think it's more we as an agency should increase our standards and just make the web in general better by just making sure that if you put out a new website, that there's a migration plan ready. Basic stuff. I don't know, the most basic stuff like your robots.txt, your meta description, all those SEO basics are just checked off, and I think that those are like simple stuff where which are just part of your investment on the client. Because if a pure design agency, for example, pure development agency is only doing, okay, we're going to deliver this project, it's also scoped out that way. Maybe do the negotiations, SEO is even scoped out of the whole project, not part of it. But you could still argue, well, we're going to still do the minimal basics, because that's what we think is just the quality of that we want to deliver. And if that means, okay, an SEO have to look at it for 2 to 4 hours, I mean, that should be possible. But that's also a bit my personal opinion about it.
Yeah, well, I get that. But I think it also, you could probably justify it if you look at it through the lens of, hey, we want to be our client's digital experience partner, whatever kind of marketing name you give to it, right? But we want to help with basically as much as we can that we can offer. Obviously, there's a customer lifetime component tied to that, and like both from the total amount of services you can help them with, but also the length of your engagement with them. Because like for us, let's say, we could do a super good implementation, and then we could help them utilize that data, get up to speed, how to get into that framework of actually using the data. And then perhaps they simply don't want to insource tag management, so they want to outsource it to us and we can continue, but maybe they also want to insource that. Then basically we're done, sort of, right? And I'm not gonna then sell them building their next website or something like that. Whereas if you offer all of that, right, you can basically have you could offer more with the thought of it will get back to you somewhere in the customer lifetime value chain, because you offer so many services potentially. So just by being good and by being responsive and by being there for them, it pays off in the long term. Although you do need to be able to play the game for the long term, but that's why there's a bunch of private equity money behind it to be able to do that. Yeah, but that's like, you don't have to earn it back in the first year, let's say.
And I personally also always believe more in the long-term strategy in that sense. If you I think also if you purely as an agency purely focus on projects and delivering projects instead of customer lifetime, then
well, I think there's something to be said for the other side as well, right? So if you are honest with your client, and so let's take data to value as an example, right? Let's say we are purely focused at this small scope of things, and let's say the company's ambition is to eventually insource it, right? Like they have an analyst in-house, they want to have somebody responsible of tag management in-house, and somebody who's responsible of, let's say, the marketing data warehouse in GCP. Then technically speaking, they wouldn't need us. Maybe they need us for setting it up, for getting best practices, for going quickly, right? Because they can't hire the right people all at once, because where to find them, right? So there's all sorts of reasons why to hire us, but it could be that we just scope it out and be like, hey, this is going to be a 6 to 12 month project, and that's it. And if in that case, I could figure out all sorts of reasons why they should be my client forever. But the project should be profitable to us, because otherwise data to value doesn't exist anymore. And it should be, but it should also be valuable to them, right? So I think there's a place for it, but it does it does pay off. It often pays off to just be proactive and help, indeed.
Yeah. No, and I mean, if you talk about, you could, the more sour side of it is that you focus on creating a lock-in or anything. That's also not what I want. I just want to add value to the client, and I like to solve puzzles in that sense. Like, and it's the same with a lot of evolutions or revolutions right now. It's like, but it's like, oh, AI will take over our jobs, sure, but once it takes over your repeating task, you actually have time available and mental capacity available to do other things. So I think the same is true for client work as well. Like they very good that in-house the basic tracking with a junior. Okay, let's educate that junior to become a media senior, etc. And then meanwhile we can do other fun stuff because collect more data. We can do media mix modeling project or an attribution project, whatever. So it creates a lot of opportunity as well. And but if the moment the client says, okay, hey, we're gonna change strategies, then there's no strings attached and you move on both. Still happy in that sense.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I think indeed nothing is ever done in our space, or at least we're not close to it. It seems like, right? So from that point of view, as long as we keep learning new stuff, we can always help clients. And actually, so Data to Value now exists like almost 6 years, and like some of my earliest clients are now coming back for stuff. So that like that's the first iteration that I'm experiencing, right? Where they were clients for maybe 2 to 3 years, then now no longer for like 2 to 3 years, and now they're coming back up, let's say. So it's also fun to see. So let's segue a bit because we're spending like a half an hour on agency nonsense already. You want to talk technology?
Sure.
I have two potential rabbit holes. So one is the whole Cloudflare rabbit hole, where I know you're passionate about it. You're a passionate Cloudflare hobbyist.
I'm a Cloudflare hobbyist, yeah.
So that's one we can explore. And another one is something I haven't talked to you about yet, but I want to know how you are applying AI, because I think you are using it as well for a bunch of stuff. But I want to know
comments on LinkedIn.
Yeah, exactly. My comments got spammed by you. But want to start off with Cloudflare or AI?
Yeah, let's do Cloudflare.
Okay, so you on multiple occasions pointed out to me that Cloudflare is super powerful, and I've been using Cloudflare for a long time, but all I do is point my domain to it and then put the DNS records in it.
Yeah.
What am I missing out? Like, walk me through some geeky use cases that you are. Just pick one to start with.
Yeah, sure. There's just a bunch of standards. I think already if you the basic one is pointing your domain via Cloudflare to the web, then it becomes and then they are the edge in between. And the powerful thing about it is like with 2 extra clicks, with basically the default settings that you can set up within Cloudflare, your website will become faster. I think that's already one thing.
So wait, and so simplify this. Explain like I'm 5. Edge, faster. Why?
Yeah. So you have your server where your website is hosted. That is already sort of in the cloud often. Then there's the client on the other side. That's the user that actually types into the URL datatovalue.com. But nowadays there's now, thanks to Cloudflare, is now in between that. So there's a middleman there, and that's what we call the edge. So it's now called edge computing. Same that within AI, you have now edge AI. It's basically the same thing. It's sort of in between the server and the user and the client. And the edge allows, because it's on a DNS level, on a name server level, it has the power to every response and request that goes to or from the origin, from the server to the client, goes through the edge. And it means that the edge can intervene with that, can manipulate that, can optimize that. So that's very interesting if you think about that, what it then can change or
so it's a little bit
can
like
interfere with.
It's a little bit like with server-side tag manager, that suddenly we have this manipulation layer in between.
Yeah, 100%. So what it can do, I know this is an example that I know from Jonah Alderson, also does a lot with Cloudflare, and far more than I do. But he has a website, I think it's like it's dayoftheyear.com or something, which he collects data about what day is it today, And that doesn't mean it's the 7th of August, but that could be a specific day somewhere in the country. But what he does because he has some display advertising on his website, he noticed that one of those third parties was not gzipping his JavaScript files. And gzipping is a method to make the file size smaller. And what you could do, because he has Cloudflare on it, he can just find out, he can actually say, okay, if the JavaScript file is not gzipped, I'm going to gzip it with Cloudflare and then push it through to the client. So you do a lot of, and this is of course more custom. There's already a lot of default stuff already out there done by Cloudflare itself. But this is a very interesting approach to, okay, if the third party is actually not fixing this, then I'm going to fix it myself. And an issue that I had with one client when they did the website migration was that the Meta Robots HTML line on all the pages of the website was wrongly coded by the developer. So there was like a small grammar mistake into it. So that means that Google was like, what the fuck is this? I don't know what to do with it. And so through errors, and what we did was with Cloudflare, we did like a search and replace on the HTML and replaced to the correct state it should be. But you can not only do this with HTML, you can also do it with, let's say you have a automated XML sitemap generated by WordPress or by Shopify, and there are still URLs in there that should not be in the XML for whatever reason. I know there could be a reason. What you could do is just, okay, because it's in XML and it goes via the edge, I can even manipulate that file as well. Same goes for images. If the image is too large, you can check, well, it's on the HTML, it should be this size, but giving me this size, okay, I'm going to make it smaller. Cloudflare also has a premium services that it can change a JPEG file to AVIF or WebP, which are far smaller. They are can be 70-80% smaller. And based on the browser, if the browser supports it, Cloudflare will automatically serve the user AVIF, which is supported by Chrome, for example. Then, you can use it for A/B testing if you want to, because basically it works like server-side A/B testing. You can use it for like a server-side type of tracker. On one Thursday afternoon, while I was in Greece with Arnoud drinking, we built basically a log file Google bot tracker in Google Analytics. So what we did was within a Cloudflare worker. A Cloudflare worker is, by the way, it's like a environment where you can write JavaScript. And you can do anything with it in terms of writing code. So what we did was, okay, we checked the user agent. If the user agent was a Google bot, then we would send that specific hit and the page it was hitting, etc., to Google Analytics because we can. And then all of a sudden we had like a Google bot log file analyzer built in GA4 using the measurement protocol.
It didn't filter itself out.
We manipulated that as well because we send it to custom events.
Yeah. Nice.
It's super powerful. What you can do with it. It's just like take any HTML, CSS, JavaScript that is sent by the origin, and you can do basically a search and replace on it and modify it.
To what extent, if I say this sounds like super powerful duct tape, do you get what I mean? Like it feels like shouldn't you fix the origin instead of putting the duct tape on top of it?
Yeah, especially with the examples that I gave. It's like not even more powerful than what we had when Google Tag Manager came out and we started to understand what we could do with that. We could also do modify HTML pages. But that was still client side. This is now sort of server side or edge. Yes, 100%. At the same time, you can build a whole CMS and a whole website in Cloudflare Workers. My whole domain is hosted in Cloudflare. I just push it to a GitHub repository, and then from GitHub it goes to Cloudflare where I push to the world. So I only have 10 euros a year on domain registration cost, and the website runs for free. So in that sense, sure, my website is only a couple pages, it doesn't make any sense, but even you can run whole apps within Google, in Workers. They now launched Workers with AI, so you can connect it to Llama 3, you can connect it to Gemini. So the examples that I gave are indeed more on the duct tape side of things, fully agreed.
But very practical, right? Like I don't want to. There is a lot of value in that, and I was just in a meeting an hour ago where I said we should use more duct tape to just get stuff done right now, because otherwise we keep waiting for pristine solutions that never show up.
Yeah, no, but there's also possibilities. Like let's say you have, or let's say you are an in-house, and you want to do, you have a good marketing tech developer type of person, hacky person, like a MacGyver person. You can build your whole A/B testing tool within a Cloudflare. You can even do whole personalization, segmentation within Cloudflare. You can, based on geolocation, you can.
What's the downside of it, of doing it in Cloudflare versus buying like whatever tool, right? I don't care.
Well, if you do it in Cloudflare Workers, you don't have a user interface, so it's pure code.
Yeah. So you have to push. So you have to push the analytics to whatever your analytics tool is, right? To Snowplow or to Google.
Yeah, so it's the downside is more that it's not accessible for the average marketeer. So this is Cloudflare Workers are more a tool for developers. The shitty thing is that a lot of websites are in Cloudflare but are not using everything it can, and I think that's a shame. So that's why I think there's if you search for Cloudflare Workers examples, then they have like an example page where they have a bunch of stuff that you can do, even for security stuff. Set up more secure security headers to prevent cross-site scripting. There's even stuff that says, how to talk to other JSON files. Like you can get the weather in, and based on the weather at the web of the user, you can show a sun instead of a cloud.
Show rain GIF on the background. Could you? Is it also possible to use Cloudflare and then only Cloudflare to set up a reverse proxy for server-side tag manager?
Yeah, that's what I did. I have a reverse proxy on my own GTM server side.
Yeah, so then it runs on freeman.com/tag manager or something like that.
/GTM, yeah.
Yeah.
Although I broke my GTM server right now, but
who cares?
Always be
sandbox,
testing,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think so that I actually knew the answer before I asked you the question, but I think that's also a nice way for people to start using Cloudflare in a powerful manner, right? Is the reverse proxy instead of the subdomain. So what did you say was you said there was a website from Cloudflare with a lot of examples?
Yeah, I think if you just Google like Cloudflare Workers examples, then there you get to the development development docs, and there's like an examples page for Cloudflare Workers. And just scroll through it. Like one of the examples is return a small HTML page. If you see that code, like if you are familiar with a bit of JavaScript, you get an understanding of what it says and what it means.
Let me actually test. I'm going to test my live stream capabilities. So this is a first. Does this work?
Ooh. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, here the top left one is return small HTML page, for example. And
Hello
you can see
world.
it just
nice.
Of course. But so you can see already what it does, how simple it is. Set up redirects, A/B testing, alter headers, which can be super handy.
Yeah. So this is like
caching
some
using fetch.
super MacGyver stuff.
But also cookies. So this is also if you want to go into the Tom and Jerry game with the cookies and the browsers. You can play with that.
Nice, great toys.
Stream OpenAI. And there's, I think, another page somewhere with more AI stuff, but it is
stay away from that.
Yeah.
Nice,
really fun.
Nice. Okay, so still big fan of Cloudflare. Did you already use it in your new job or not yet?
Not yet, unfortunately.
You don't get to log in and change the Cloudflare right away.
Yeah, that's the good point in terms of. I think Simo was one who, of course, has been advocating a lot about it in the last couple of years, but also I think wrote something about it, like also in the light of like server-side tag manager, like with great power comes great responsibility.
Yep.
I think that was already true when GTM in general came out, because it has a send-off sandbox
custom
JavaScript.
HTML.
Yeah, exactly. With Cloudflare, it's even worse. So yeah, you really need to gain trust with your developers.
Best not to do it in your first month at your new client.
No, and I think the hardest thing here is also that what I noticed is that that developers don't even know what you can all do with Cloudflare. One tip I need to give is, once you start playing, for example, with the speed optimization tools that it has, is every setting you change, test it really carefully. Like every time you make one change, put it into PageSpeed or webpagetest.org and then see the difference. Also, if it goes negative, but also remember that if you, let's say on the domain, you also, let's say Cloudflare runs on the full domain, the full root, and that also means it runs on, let's say, myaccount.domain.com. Then any site speed changes also has an impact on the admin on those accounts part of the website as well, not only the marketing side facing. So that also means that you might need to set up exclusion rules, which is something that you can, to say, okay, certain types of caching should not be done on the My Account settings or on the checkout, for example.
Yeah, that might give an adverse result.
Yeah, so that is just one maybe quick heads up before you dive into this, because that can really fuck things up.
Or they blame Simon on Twitter. X.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Gotcha. Cloudflare. So any AI magic, any things, because you're always the one who gives me tips of things that I haven't thought about, things that I haven't implemented myself. So I wanna know if there are there any things that you are using AI for right now that you think are not like super common or super standard?
I think I still use it for a lot of stuff that also others are using it.
Okay, let's start with
maybe
that.
maybe one little tool that not a lot of people are using, also because I understand why, but is actually using Groq, GROQ.com. They have like an interface where you can chat. It's not very good compared to like ChatGPT or anything, or Perplexity. But the thing is, they are super fast, because they're not using GPUs, they're using LPUs. They also just got like this week an investment in of 650 million. But if you click on what is AI interference as an example, for example, or shit, you need to log in.
That's fine. We'll log in. Yeah. We'll give everybody access to everything. Let's do it.
Of course. It's super fast. You can choose different models in the top right corner. So now we currently use this Llama 3, but it also 3.1 is already there, even with the 7 billion and Gemma and others. But yeah, their whole product is actually that they make custom chips that are just X amount times faster than GPUs. They also have a whole API, which is far more interesting for developers. This is just a little interface to show how quick it is. so it doesn't store your the chats that you're having. But that's I think really cool. And what I use it where I use Groq for a lot is actually summarize this and then the URL of the article. And I notice it because I don't want to wait for ChatGPT to actually summarize it because it's sometimes super slow. It's like, okay, just paste it in and then boom, it gives me within a second.
Does it take a URL or do you have to copy paste the article in you?
No, URL.
Oh, that's nice. What could be nice is, do you know raycast.com? Or Raycast, like the it's like a launcher like Alfred on Mac.
I used Raycast for a while, but I can't get used to it, so I went back to Alfred.
Well, anyhow, I think Raycast, Alfred, whatever. But then using Groq inside of that, because I use OpenAI in Raycast a lot. It's like it's a really deep integration, but then sometimes the answer is slow, right? Because it just uses the OpenAI API. Maybe there's already.
Maybe you can build your own something.
Yeah, you can. And I already did something, but then things change and you have to update it, and then I become frustrated. So I am more a fan of somebody building it and then me using it. That's my that's my preferred approach. Because first of all, I have to use ChatGPT to build it because I have no clue what kind of code I'm writing, and then it breaks, and then that's it's not a good workflow. But
when I saw Groq for the first time, and I learned about it via another podcast, but was just okay. Now I understand why interference and the speed of interference is so important. Most people, when they talk about buying the H100, 1000 chips, they talk about the training, which might be still important for the big tech companies that build their own training sets.
Yeah, we're not going to do that, right?
No, but interference is far more important, I think, for the future. You see it with also the AI tools that came out that, for example, Marcus Brownlee destroyed in his reviews. Like speed of the AI is becoming massively important, and I think Groq is one of the companies that's solving that.
Yeah. Well, I have good news for myself and for you if you want to switch back to Raycast, because somebody built it. So indeed, there. Oh, you even get.
There is a reason why I should.
You see why. You can even see what it cost you to summarize something. Nice, but you do need. So you need a Groq API key, obviously.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I'm gonna test this. For sure.
That's cool.
I'll let everybody know in the next episode. Anything else you like? What do you use it for? Like, except summarize this and except spamming my LinkedIn comments. I like other common things. Even though.
Yeah, I use it just a lot for research in the broadest sense. For hobby projects, hobby interests, but also or for work related. I think in terms of research, it's an excellent tool, and I think sure in the future AI will become good at creating, but an LLM is actually not purely not built for creating. But I think in terms of research, it's an excellent tool, and I really enjoy it using it. And I have like whole chats. And in that sense, I think it's one of the best tricks I quickly learned also from others was like you have to sometimes keep some of the chats actually open and use them again. So it's more like okay, you are now my business consultant or my personal consultant, how to become the best marketing consultant, teach me. And then every time you have an issue, you talk to the ChatGPT or whatever you're using. And because it's sort of at least it feels like it's learning on the conversation we had so far. So that's why I have a couple of these chats sort of pinned that I use regularly.
Yeah. I do the same. I'm I don't know if you know this already, but I'm going to Spain for like 1.5 months. We're gonna live there work, live. So I'm learning Spanish. So I have one chat open, which is the Spanish tutor. And actually, like, we're also doing like a couple of like, we're doing like an official Spanish class. And I'm also, obviously, we're doing Duolingo and like all. But honestly, ChatGPT, like having that interaction, that way of doing things, and you can also explore certain topics. And then also the voice mode of ChatGPT. So what I did this morning, I dropped off my daughter at daycare, and then on the way back, I was talking to ChatGPT in the car with the voice mode, and I was just learning Spanish.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is, my mind was blown. I was like, this is such, like, this makes so much sense, right? Like, because you can do it in so many contexts. So on the personal level, that's one. And another one is, so we use the TMA, the Talent Management Assessment, which is like let's call it the personality test, right? It's a framework. You have, I think, 25 talents, and then you are either you're very organized or very ambitious or very, you have all these kind of things. So you do this test, out comes a report, very detailed report with like, okay, probably you are when you're working together with people, you prefer when they are direct or this, right? You have all these things, right? So what we do, I uploaded them all into a custom GPT for our teammates. And now you can basically ask like, okay, what if person A and B want to work together? What are the common pitfalls or what? Right? So you can basically brainstorm a little bit with the GPT, like, okay, I have this client who is demanding that we are very punctual and very this, and this. Who would be the best person, right? Like all these kind of things. So that was also a really fun use case where I was like, hey, this makes a lot of sense, and I could see us using it more often. Like currently we're at a size where I can also kind of do it in my head, right? But I can imagine if it's like 100 or 500 people, right? Who is the best fit for this client, right? You could fill out a thing for the client, like, hey, what maybe you can have the client do actually a test like that, and then connect it.
I mean, to really tap into one little thing, I think the most important thing right now is with AI is actually sometimes forcing yourself to use it.
Yeah.
I think you said it before regarding to like in general our whole industry of online marketing especially online in general. Like how old is the internet? It's compared to other industries still super young. So of course a lot going on, especially last year. Or last 2 years, and then AI came all of a sudden 1.5 years ago. So it's under massive change, and the only way to stay ahead is, or to stay on top, is to sometimes brute force yourself into using it.
Yeah,
and that's at the first moment. This might be counterintuitive and actually not faster. Doesn't make you more productive at the short term. But hopefully does at the long term.
Yeah. I definitely think just experimenting with it, and sometimes it takes you a little bit longer, especially the first time, right? And it's also, you have to go out of the comfort zone to do it, and usually you're like, if I just do it, I'm done quicker. But then by doing it, you realize like, oh, this opens up a whole new set of possibilities. And sometimes it sucks, right? That's also good to know.
Exactly.
Simon, it is 5:00.
Ooh.
We made it. We did it. It was good catching up with you.
Likewise.
Next time we do it in real life again, maybe with a beer.
With a beer and a microphone.
Yeah. Now we leave the microphone. Anything you want to share? Anything you want to? People have to go to vreeman.com or something like that. Like, subscribe on YouTube. What's
Vreeman.com, Vreeman.ai.
Ooh, .ai. Yes. Nice.
Of course I bought that domain.
Of course. I have data2value.ai. I think it could be worth something in the future.
If you just Google me, then you'll probably find something somewhere.
Yeah, and I will link to you as well. People view this on a later date, and if people want to learn more about this show, you can go to dtv.show or data2value.show, but dtv.show is shorter, right? And then the older episodes, which is now just one with Hussein and Glenn, but hopefully in the future more, they will all be there. This one will be there. And I think there's also a live chat, which we didn't use this time, or nobody showed up, or I actually have no clue how it works still. But maybe that's something we can do next time. Should be fun.
Some Q&A.
Yeah, exactly. Then I'll invite you. Then you can answer the questions.
I know how to do that.
Cool. Hey, it was good catching up. See
Likewise.
you later.
See you
Bye-bye.
later. You.